Hello to my fellow KW stakeholders. Of course, it's Aaron Kaufman, Chief Stakeholder Evangelist out of Atlanta, Georgia, coming to you live with another episode of the My 401 KW interview series where we dive a little bit deeper with some of our top profit share earners and stakeholder mindset. And look, this morning is no different. I've got a longtime KW friend of mine, Nancy Seraphin out of Park City, Utah. How are you doing this morning, Nancy?
Doing great, Aaron. How about yourself?
Doing great. Thank you so much for getting up so early for this call. And what time is it out there in Park City? It's 7:30 or 6:30?
7:30.
Okay. Well, that's still early for a lot of us. You and I, we go way back, right? There was a time when I was in Park City, Utah, actually teaching my class, one of my most favorite places to teach because it's so absolutely beautiful out there. But Nancy, I know you've been with KW for a long time. Before we jump into profit share and, all the things around that, let's kind of go back to, who you were before you came to KW, how you ended up getting into real estate, how you joined KW, and then we'll just kind of go from there. All right.
Okay. Well, I was schooled in Massachusetts. I went to college at the University of Massachusetts.
All right.
Migrated into Boston after that, which is a common path, and
Sure.
started working at the oldest real estate company in Boston. And we were essentially a sales and marketing subcontractor to residential real estate developers. So from the very start of my career, I was running development projects, 4 to 6 of them at a time in kind of metropolitan Boston, and loved that job. And then the economy changed in the late 80s, and I began to look at other opportunities and thought, well, Seattle and San Francisco live and breathe a lot like Boston in terms of city size and all of that. So I had my eyes on either of those two markets, but I had become a skier after coming to Park City a few times and loved the little town. It was a very small town at that time. And decided to just be a ski bum for 6 months on my way to the West Coast. And
Did you have children, Nancy, that you brought? Did you bring a family with you to Park City? Or
No, I was single at the time, so that gave me the freedom to roam.
Yeah.
And prepaid for a 6-month lease, figuring I'm off to the West Coast afterwards. And when spring came here, Park City is well known as a ski destination. Yeah. But spring came and it was crystal blue every day, not a mosquito in sight, no humidity. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm an outdoor person. I love that. I got to figure out a way to live here. And that was right around the time when the Olympic light was shining on Salt Lake City and Park City. It was very apparent we were probably going to win the Winter Olympics, which we did. And that meant that there were a lot of developers kind of swooping around.
Sure.
Opportunity here, and those were the only kind of clients I knew how to speak to because that's where my roots were.
Yeah.
So a local brokerage, not Keller Williams, hired me to come in and help them grow their developer business.
Yeah.
So I did that, and then took advantage of a few other opportunities that came up in the growth phase of the Park City area, which has been enormous. And eventually moved out of Park City to northern Utah to run a big golf and ski community. And then, of course, 2007, 2008 happened. And those of your listeners who are newer in the business won't know that was the Great Recession. And it became apparent to me that my side of the business, working with developers, was going to be the last to recover.
Sure.
And my husband had been a licensee at KW for quite some time. And one of the owners had been a dear friend of mine. And we had worked at a couple of development projects previously. And she called me out of the blue and said, we need a CEO. Will you move back to Park City? I was living about 70 miles away, and come be our CEO. I'd never run a big brokerage. Thought, well, it's an opportunity. I'm going to go for it. So I did. That was in 2013. And there began my journey with Keller Williams and profit share, obviously.
Amazing. Did I mention I launched my recruiting websites in 05, and that's when I sponsored all my new agents to KW in 05, 06, 07, 08, 09. So the shift was obviously for those of us that went through it, obviously it was a tough time, but I think a lot just coming back from family reunion, and Tony Robbins was there and talking about how we're in winter, and Gary Keller back then said something that really got me back up on my feet, which was that the greatest shift of wealth and opportunity are in down cycles, not up cycles. And it's funny how your journey with KW kind of started during that, right? For me, as much as I love the idea of my profit share blowing up and never having to work again, I had to pivot. I built my class that I've been so grateful to be teaching around KW. Have a chance to come to the city in the spring, by the way, which is beautiful. But I also met my wife, Nancy, in that shift at a second job I had to get. And here we are in this next moment, and we're back into winter. And these are the moments that I think most real estate agents, profit share is now way down their list because they're just trying to sell houses, right? So so we want to kind of let them, remind them that this is another one of those moments where someone like Nancy, who comes into KW in a shifting, market, look what you've been able to do and become at KW as a result of that. So back to there, so you came to KW in 13. So did I hear that correct?
Yes, 13. As the team
years, right, of the market, of that shift happening for you to realize, okay, this opportunity came to you, and you were struck. It was a tough time for you as working for a developer. You knew that those days were going to be tough, correct?
Right. Yeah. Right. Exactly. And our market center had experienced, unfortunately, as does sometimes happen, a huge exodus when our principal broker left for a new shiny object.
Sure.
And a lot of our production. A lot of our production followed him out the door. So it was a rebuilding period. So we were at, these are going to sound like small numbers to some of the people listening because they're in big market centers, but we were down to 120 agents, and I got it up to about 200 before I shifted into some other opportunities and then my current role.
Well, Park City is a smaller market, right? A lot of the agents are they part-time agents because they live there half the year, or are they a lot of full-time agents, but it's more of a seasonal? I mean, how does the market differ there?
Well, it's a resort market, so we tend to have quite high pricing. But a lot fewer transactions. So the pie is not as big to go around in terms of numbers of transactions. So that makes it sometimes a little more challenging to the newer talent in the business. But our MLS has 1,200 members. So that kind of gives you an idea of the size. And the joke around town is there's one realtor for every 10 people. But a lot of them are part-time, maybe have come out of a Fortune 500 career, decided to relocate here for semi-retirement, and then they decide to become a part-time agent just because you can only ski so many days, right? So or mountain bike or whatever else they do to recreate. But then the other half, are serious, entrepreneurial, hardworking, high-producing agents. So it's kind of a mixed bag.
Sure, probably good for a cap model company, right? Because at KW, you might not be as many transactions, but you can probably cap on 1.5, 2 deals there at Park City, which is that market center is there and still there and doing well. So when you came to KW, obviously your husband was here, but did you understand, who we were as a company, what the challenges were, obviously your role was to grow the market center and make it profitable, but what did you know about KW? What did you like about the opportunity coming from, because you're going from more of a dependent role, even though I know you were a high level person working with developers and builders. Coming to KW, you're now CEO of Park City. So you're now a business owner, right? So what was that transition like for you coming to KW? What was it about our model, that opportunity that really struck interest in you?
Well, I will say I knew a little bit about it being a different model, but if you would quiz me on how it was different, I don't think I could have answered the top
Sure.
10 reasons, because several of the people who were founding owners, investor owners, when Keller Williams was formed, which was in 2005 in Park City, when that franchise opened, had been dear associates of mine in other franchise companies.
Sure.
So I knew it was different. I knew it was agent centric. I knew training was a big part of the focus. And that excited me because I've always enjoyed training new talent and mentoring people.
Yeah.
And that really became what I loved about the role, was
Sure.
finding talent and then mentoring them. And, there's a number of top producing agents now that I feel like, I help bring them into the business.
Yeah.
I love that.
So how did you, a lot of people who, we have team leaders that take over market centers that were never even in real estate before.
Yeah.
So talk about maybe in your mind, I guess, building credibility and validity with your top agents and learning how to consult on, a top agent when you had not necessarily done it as a business owner. But what was that process like for you to, did you have any issues? I know you're a very confident person, obviously. You moved to Park City on your own, at a young age. But did you find that challenging or intimidating to learn how to get talent in your minds? Yeah.
Well, I think I was blessed because I had worked in what was the number one brokerage in the town.
Yeah.
During a very active period here. Yeah. We were a very small brokerage community back then. I think the total number of agents in our town was something like 350 or 400. Yeah. I mean, it was much smaller. So I got to know most of the heavy hitters because I worked alongside them. So I think I had earned their respect over the years. But I will say that to coach with top producers that I didn't know, the beautiful thing about Keller Williams is they give you a tool for everything. The toolbox is always full, and you have to know which tool to pull. And at that time, our regional director was Matt Green, who had just an incredible toolbox of coaching tools for me to replicate. And, that's the beautiful thing about this company. I'm sounding repetitive, but there is always somebody you can go to ask for help, who will drop everything they're doing and help you.
Yeah.
And so I reached out when I needed help, and my mentor, who's Scott Agnew, who is the operating principal, he was out of state, so we would consult in weekly phone calls, and he would also help direct me to anybody if he wasn't able to directly assist me. So I felt like the resources were all there. Everything I needed was there.
And I would imagine in Park City that more so than most markets, someone with relationships, right? Relationships are the currency in Park City, and you were brought there because you were influential in that community, right? And that was and so then you filled in, that's why you were brought to KW as CEO, is that you had the relationship. It's probably hard to bring in a team leader from outside of Park City because they have to start at zero with building those relationships. And that was, I would assume, a huge reason why you were able to, in a very quick time, grow that market center, is that you were a part of that community, right?
Right.
That was important to you, obviously, to KW and to the success of the market center. So you came there, you took over. Was profit share even something that was something you even understood? I mean, obviously your husband's there, so I don't know. I'm assuming he sponsored you to KW. Okay.
He actually didn't get to sponsor me. The woman who threw my name in the hat at that point, he was sort of winding down his business anyway. So the woman.
Well, I'm not going to get into that, Nancy, but what I will say is, for those that are listening, obviously if your husband or spouse or, whoever your family is at KW, God, family, business, right? Yep. Family should be what should be the default, unless you don't get along with them and you don't want them to inherit your profit share. But if you are in a partnership, you're married at KW, you got to look at the McKissicks.
Right.
Jimmy McKissick has sponsored one or two people to KW. One of them was Linda. Right. Linda has sponsored about 32, 33 people, but now they both have 8,000 to 10,000 people in their tree. and they're in the top 5 in profit share. So Nancy, I will have to take this offline because if I found, if I knew, I don't know why your husband wasn't chosen, but whatever happened at that point should not have. I mean, I personally would have thought that your husband should have been selected as your sponsor, right?
Yeah, it could have been. There were some different dynamics in
play.
The
only dynamics that I need to know about is that every office is independently owned and operated. So, unfortunately, that decision was made. We're going to move past that. But if I would always have strongly insisted on that because it's the right thing to do. But
absolutely,
coming to KW, obviously, just as a result of that of this understanding that your husband's not your sponsor, my guess is you probably didn't fully understand the profit share opportunity at KW when you joined.
No, I didn't. Right? I didn't. Right. You good point, Aaron. I didn't fully understand it at that time, or my husband would have been my sponsor.
Right. We have to make sure that we are constantly protecting that, right? Because you don't want to have we want people to be happy, right? We want people to be enjoying them, getting the maximum amount of profit share. And even though you're still, you've had an amazing experience at KW, if your husband was your sponsor, you would be making twice as much money as you're making right now in profit share, right? You understand that?
Potentially.
But we're going to move past this, all right?
We're going to move past it. But you're right, Aaron. I just wanted to say that I recruited a number of married couples in my tenure.
Yes.
And that was always the way. Once I learned the full breadth and wonderful gift that is profit share, I did not practice.
You pay it forward. And Nancy, I do the same thing, right? Like I was the first to do internet recruiting. I experienced a lot of things. I now take that experience, and try to be a part of the positive change. So look, regardless, I mean, you have obviously come to terms with that. What I want to make sure is that it doesn't happen again. Okay. So if we don't talk about these things, right, and continue to talk about them, they're going to continue to happen. So we just want to make sure that we are learning from this, right? That's the goal of all these conversations, is that we've all made mistakes. We've all failed forward. And we want the next generation of stakeholders at KW who are going to carry this torch, Nancy, because I know you get the fact that this profit share will far outlive you and I's lives, and that we want to protect that for the legacy that we're leaving. And we want to educate these people coming in. Look, if it's going to continue to grow and be something that our generations of our families are going to benefit from, we've got to protect it, right? So I love that we had this aha. I don't need to know why, okay? I'm not going to go rant on it, but I just want people that are listening to understand you better put your spouse down as your sponsor. And if anybody tells you otherwise, you just reach out to me, okay? Please. All right. Now, so coming to KW, right? But you paid that forward. So talk about now when, as a CEO, as a team leader of a KW office, it's your job to grow the office. But I know, Nancy, you're a servant leader, and you understood that, hey, if I grow this through my agents, well, then they're going to become my biggest leverage tool, because they're going to be, vested in the profitability of the office. They're probably going to buy into culture more. But talk about how that you grew the office through your agents, but also how being a team leader is exactly one of the reasons you take that role. It's for the opportunity to build your profit share. And look, you had a lot of relationships in that market. And just because you're a team leader doesn't mean that you have to take the backstage when it comes to sponsorship. So talk about how that kind of developed, how taking on the role of a team leader and what your job was, but also how you were obviously also a natural attractor to KW, and how you started to learn about profit share and how it all tied together as TL of that office.
Yeah, so it was kind of a two-pronged approach. Of course, we were always trying to find new talent coming fresh out of school, so that we could train them our way and get them to embrace the KW models and systems. But you're absolutely right. To recruit capper talent, I relied very heavily on my ALC and the other top producing agents in the market center, who I knew. And, every time they closed a deal, I would talk to them about, hey, is, Susie, who is on the other side, is she a good match for our company? And I think that it's important to know that not everybody is a match.
Yeah.
And I don't think we should just try to recruit people for the sake of numbers, but we want to really think about what's the talent behind that person. And 80 to 90% of the time, the answer would be yes, they'd be a good fit. Would you arrange a lunch? Could the three of us go to lunch, or, would you just at least make the contact? And then I was very purposeful about making sure that agent knew. I kept them updated of the progress, because people didn't always come over immediately, of course. Sometimes there'd be a 6-month lead time. And I didn't know what to believe about profit share, right? I remember my first check was like $4.31, or my first automatic deposit. And I thought, okay, well, that's a start, and then and we have a pretty high cap in our market center. It's 29,000. And it just started, we were not incredibly profitable at that time because we had lost a lot of our talent, but our profitability returned. And we had an exceptionally high retention rate. 85% was our retention rate. And that really helped continue to grow my profit share because we just weren't losing people in droves.
Well, why do you think that, Nancy? Why do you think that? Right? I mean,
they
were flashing new objects. There's always a better price offer next door. There's always someone willing to offer a higher commission, a higher price offer. And I also want, I'm assuming that when you joined KW, since there were a lot of people previously that were leaving, that you also had to kind of maybe rebuild the trust around that office. I don't know if there was an issue with that. So I'm just curious what your thoughts are around that, about what you had to overcome to kind of, get your agents to trust you, not only as someone that's going to protect them, but also that, hey, this market center is on track. I want to grow it. We're delivering on the value and I want to attract people to it. So
I was able to put in some programs early on in my tenure there. Because we are a resort market, it didn't take much convincing. My OP, I said, look, we really have to have at least a marketing staff person here because we were competing with two very well-known luxury brands who provide, enormous amounts of marketing to their agents. So we needed a way to be able to do that, not for free, because of course we don't have the percentage model. We have a cap model. But I got very lucky I was able to hire a really fantastic marketing person who, again, we weren't offering these services for free, but she was so good.
Yeah.
She made me look good. And she's still with the market center. And that was perceived as enormous value. I also changed the format of our sales meetings. So each meeting had, the typical agenda items, but I always brought in outside speakers. Tried to make the meetings really fun so people would look fun and interesting with good learning. So that people really look forward to Wednesday mornings with us. And so people started coming back to the meetings. And, that's when you're able to start building that, I call it esprit de corps, just that team energy that makes you attractive to agents in other companies where there's not that same team energy.
I love it.
The favored agents and then everybody else, we made everybody feel like they were part of the success. So,
well, Nancy, you're speaking my language, right? I mean, right now there's two words that are coming out of my mouth in my class, and it's purpose and community, right? Purpose and community. Obviously, we're fighting for the future of our profession, right? I mean, I think it's fair to say we're the only company fighting for the future of our profession and building proprietary tech and to help you all out Zillow, right? I mean, I hope we all understand the moment we're in. But the other side of it is, we're the only privately held company where agents and owners are actually vested in a true common goal and have a real incentive to work together and care about each other. And, it's funny, Nancy, it's a different time than it was back when you joined KW. But one of the things that I'm noticing post-pandemic is that the biggest challenges for some of our market centers are getting agents back into the office physically, right? Because they just got content with, doing virtual, being virtual. And, I just want people to understand, as a stakeholder at KW, purpose and community are secret weapons, right? I mean, there's nobody that can hold a candle to our purpose and community if we're actually delivering on it on a local level, right? Every office is independently owned and operated. The French fries at KW don't taste the same in Atlanta as they taste in some other markets, and vice versa, right? Everybody gets to kind of, create their own, I guess, version of KW. And so, but when all things are created equal, Nancy, and we understand who we are, and we are building market centers that deliver on purpose and community, that compel our agents to come in physically, because there's always top agents willing to teach a class. There's always an overflowing training calendar. There's a sense of culture and community there. Please tell me how an agent that values those things would ever choose another real estate company over us, right? But the fact is, in the absence of value, price becomes the determining factor, and not everybody at KW is having the same experience. And so I just think it was an interesting parallel, Nancy, to where you were trying to get these people back into the office and trying to kind of recreate this culture after, some people left there, to the moment we're in right now. Because the fact is, if you can get people back into the office and you can deliver on culture and community and purpose, that's how you build a market center in this moment, then no one will ever want or need to leave, period. Right. And there might be a better price. I mean, I'm sure there's a better price offer. I'm sure there's a company touting how much more money you can make in rev share or whatever it might be. But the fact is, and you said it before, Nancy, it's not about being in business with every agent that needs what we offer, right? It's about being in business with the agents that value what we value and believe what we believe. And yes, there is a recruiting aspect to KW, a gross recruiting number that we need to maintain to keep growth. But as you grow a market center, you have more leverage. And as you grow that market center, the bar for who you should allow to be in business with you gets higher and higher and higher. And I think that's what people need to understand is, look, if you don't have a lot of agents in your office and you're not profitable, you don't have a lot of leverage. So you better grow it so that you can really have that leverage to decide who you really should be in business with, right?
Very true, Aaron. Absolutely.
So back to that moment. So you're back there, you're showing people how committed you are. You're creating energy in the office. People are starting to come back in. You're starting to turn the corner on profitability, right? Now, when does profit share start coming into the conversations in your office as, hey, look, this is what's driving culture? Or I mean, is it something that just sort of became an effect of a market center that people just love to be in, and we were profitable and sharing that profit as a result of it?
Well, it was definitely a phased in process, starting with 122 of those agents. I would say probably 25 of those agents were full time.
Yeah.
And those that stayed were our biggest cheerleaders, right?
Yeah.
So they really helped keep the culture and helped really make the people that I was recruiting feel immediately part of the family. So the associates that were there get a lot of the credit because as I was bringing people in, they helped support them and get them into production quicker if they were new associates, etc. So it really was truly a team effort. And we started being pretty profitable in year 2014. 2013, my first year, was kind of a transition. And then we pretty much enjoyed consistent profitability since then.
Do you think being profitable helped to kind of make that connection? I mean, look, your agents, I remember being there. I've taught probably 500 classes since Park City, but I remember us going out to lunch afterwards and how awesome all your top agents were at the class. We had this amazing lunch with all your top agents. You could tell that they cared, that they loved, the office. But did you see sort of another level of them taking ownership of that market center once it became profitable and they saw the connection between culture, profit share, growing the office, their checks being bigger, helping non-cappers become cappers? Did that take it to the next level? Because, I'm always trying to make people understand that, look, there are good people at every company, Nancy. I mean, there are people over at your competition there that work together well and are buying the teamwork. The question is, why is it different at KW, right? Why do we tend to buy into teamwork more at KW than at other companies? And of course, the answer to that question is we're vested financially in a common goal. So did you, as a CEO of that office, see that becoming more of a leverage tool for you to get them to buy into culture? Did it become more of a sort of a thing in your tool belt, in your conversations with your agents, with your conversations with recruits? I'm just curious because Some people don't talk about profit share, and they're still profitable, but are they as profitable as they should be, right?
Well, and I have to thank you, Aaron, for your Facebook group, because I picked up a lot of great pointers there, such as, after the 21st of the month when we have profit to report, I would text everybody who got profit share, say, hey, look in your bank, you've got, $2,000, et cetera. And then we would make a big deal of it at our team meetings, like you taught us.
Yes.
And not just, here's a big check, but here, Fred earned $2,200, and that's the equivalent of having $180,000 sitting in a bank account at 4%.
And Fred, what will that do? What does that mean to you? What does that do? Because I think that's the cool thing, Nancy, is that it's not just about the money, right? It's about what it does for our family. And when you hear agents say, it just paid for my family reunion ticket, it just paid for my car payment, it just paid for my a couple months of my kids' student loans, right? It's I saw once in a market center I loved more than anything. They had one of these giant profit share trees, and each leaf, it said, okay, this is what an agent made. But then it said what it did for that agent that month. And I just think people don't understand that it's not just about the money, right? It's about, one, like you said, how much money you would have had to invest, annually at X% to make that money. It's purely passive. But the other side of it is, what is it doing for our agents, right? I mean, we gave back $100 million last year in a shifting market. Unfortunately, 6% of our agents made 80% of that money. But for those 6%, what an advantage, right? What did that do for them in last year, which was a tough time for a lot of us? Think about, I mean, all my mortgages were paid for last year. Yeah, it was down, but to know that in a shifting market, all my mortgages were paid for by profit share. I mean, to me, the advantage that gives me mentally, you know. So anyways, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but
no.
But you started to celebrate it. You were intentional about it. You talked about it, right?
Yeah, very much so. And, to be honest, we're in a market where the average commission is minimum $20,000. So,
right.
So when somebody gets $2,000, it dropped in their bank account.
Oh, yeah.
It's not the amount.
Exactly.
It's the fact that it's passive. It's the fact that no other company does it the way we do it.
Right.
And they say, well, that's one less half transaction I don't need to do this year if I want to keep my business the same.
Well, and more importantly, when you stop selling real estate, it keeps going. Right. That's the bigger, as Linda McKissick would say, what are you going to do when you take that last sign out of your house? Now, obviously in Park City, these people are not begging for money on the corner there. Okay, they're living in Park City for a reason.
Right.
But not every agent in Park City is a multi-millionaire, right? I mean, so
certainly not.
That's the great thing about KW is we're a cap model, and right, once you cap, you keep 100% of your commission. So anyway, so that started to grow the excitement around culture, around profit share. And so keep going here. You're now,
and that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, because as the market center grows and becomes more profitable, the agents become even more enthused, and their enthusiasm helps continue to attract talent. So once the market center becomes profitable, I never want to say the job of a team leader becomes easier, because it's a very challenging role. There's so many things that are in that role, but it makes you much more confident when you're sitting down with a recruit to say, here's what profit share can do for you. And they'll, when they say, well, who's earning profit share? And you can rattle off 30 names because you remembered who you texted. Or I would just pick up my phone and say, well, here's what I do on the 21st of each month. And, just let them peek at a couple. And that it is real. It absolutely is.
Did you find yourself, because I think one of the things that we don't do very well, Nancy, is connecting the dots between profit share and our culture, right? Is that, as Gary would say, our culture starts with profit share. There's a reason, we took over the industry in 35 years. There's a reason our culture is unique. It's a reason that we have this interdependent culture, right? Is that we're vested financially. So when you're talking to a recruit, sometimes I hear team leaders say, well, I don't even talk about profit share in my recruiting presentation. And I'm like, well, I'm not sure how you can communicate our value proposition at a high level if you're not talking about the catalyst for the entire value proposition, which is profit share. So I'm curious, as it became more profitable, obviously you talk about profit share, but hopefully you started to make a connection between why the office was, why you have an amazing culture, and how profit share kind of was either an effect of that or the fuel behind it. Did you see yourself talk? Because look, I see you even today. You're one of the most active people in the mastermind group. I know you're very intentional about profit share. You're very connected to it. But did you see yourself, the evolution of yourself as a team leader, starting to see that, hey, actually profit share is another big tool in my toolbox to really grow this office and create and to showcase our value proposition to agents that are not with us? Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, it's the backbone to the slogan that we're a company built for agents by agents.
Yes.
Right. Is that everybody who starts to earn profit share, really becomes a stakeholder. And again, this is another thing, Aaron, we changed the name of our meeting to stakeholders meeting.
I love it.
And a stakeholder is different than an agent who's affiliated with you. They have something at stake, which means they're going to care more about helping that person who's standing by the copier and can't figure out how to do a two-sided copy because they have a vested interest in how well the market center performs. It just, there's subtle little nuances that change the behavior, and you taught us so many of them. So thank you for that. And everybody just becomes like a family helping one another, as opposed to, even though we all compete with one another, it's a very supportive culture. And I think profit share is so key to it. And again, it's not about the amount of money. It's about the fact that this is a company that shares its profit.
Yes.
The company down the road is going to take 15 to 25% of every one of your commissions. And you might get to have one meeting where you feel like maybe you have a little bit of input.
Exactly.
And it's lip service, as they all will tell you at the other companies. Oh, they just do that for lip service. They do whatever they want. They don't take the input of the agents because the agents don't have any stake in it.
Do you guys have rev share models in Park City yet, or no?
We do, but they're not.
Not a fit for that.
There's
market,
the 3-letter company is here, but very, very small. I think they have maybe 15 agents, so it's not. We did have a couple of other companies copy our model, try to copy our model, I should say, both of which are franchise companies. And those started to emerge kind of in year 3 and 4 of my team leader role. And they really didn't implement it well. So they weren't big competitors in regards.
Were they former KW people, or were they just trying to imitate the model?
They were just trying to imitate the model in both cases.
My favorite line from Gary Keller these days, and I use it in my class, I just love it. He says, "We're not even the company you're trying to emulate anymore, right? We're a consumer-centric, agent-driven technology company now, right?" And I think, I always say, it pays to be the first, right? It pays to be the first abundantly thinking, agent-centric, interdependent real estate company. I mean, good luck replicating 40 years of culture. Okay. 40 years. I mean, we're not even the company you're trying to emulate. And that's what I love about people like, you, me, and other people that I know that have been with KW a substantial amount of time, is that we know what it's like to be the emerging company, right? There are a lot of people in our company. I would say the majority of our people in our company right now have probably been with KW for less than 5 years. Right. And, we're on the 3rd generation of KW. And if we don't continue to connect the dots for our new leadership, our new agents, I mean, we're not going to resemble the real estate company that got us to where we are today. And that's why I do what I do, Nancy, is that I'm highly vested financially in the success of KW. I mean, my downline is in over 300 Keller Williams market centers. Okay. So when people say thank you for what you do, I'm like, look, I'm just taking ownership of this real estate company I got a huge financial stake in. Maybe you should do the same. And I just want people to really listen to what I'm about to say. For those of us that are purposeful about profit share, this ain't about our next check. Okay. No. Profit share is down right now. We all know it's down. Okay. And what concerns me, Nancy, is that when profit share is down, people don't want to talk about it as much because it's down, and they think it somehow exposes some inadequacy of the KW model, especially when you compare it to a rev share model. Because look, let's get real. Apples to apples, you're going to make more money off of a recruit at one of these rev share companies than certainly if you attract an agent to one of our offices that is not very profitable right now.
Right.
The problem we face, Nancy, in this moment is that if we're not going to talk about profit share because it's down, well, then how in the heck are you going to talk about culture, which, by the way, is our number one value proposition? And so if it starts with profit share and you ain't talking about it or painting a vision for what it could be, and remember, Nancy, we were not even profitable for the first 14 years as a company. I mean, imagine if, our founding agents were like, look, let's not talk about this profit share thing because it's not real. Where would we be today? So in this moment, I think more than ever, when purpose and community and culture, I think, are more valuable than they've ever been in this moment, right? When shifting markets, shifting industry, we're more divided as a country, as a species than we've ever been. To be a part of a company where agents are vested in a true common goal and have a real incentive to work together and care about each other, and God forbid something bad happens to us or a natural disaster hits our town, we're a part of something bigger. To me, that's our secret weapon. But if we're not going to talk about profit share because we're not profitable, or we think that it somehow dilutes our value proposition because we're a training and coaching company and consulting company, profit share is just this little icing on the cake over here. No, actually, it's everything. And it's the catalyst for our company. And if we don't start telling that story better, and these virtual rev share companies keep telling our story as their story, better than we tell our own story to our own agents, we might not, be the company that has gotten us to where we are today. So that's why I'm so passionate about what I talk about, Nancy, and why I bring people like you on, because you get it. Okay. And this is how you built your market center, is that it's not about the money. The money never drives the behavior. It's about making your agents believe that there's something bigger that binds us together. And honestly, whether you earn profit share or not, you're a stakeholder in KW, period. Right? Unfortunately, 30% of us are being financially rewarded for being a stakeholder. And sorry for going on a rant and going off on that whole thing. But that's why I love these conversations, is that it just invokes thoughts that hopefully people can learn from. So then you were CEO for 7 years in Park City. Is that correct?
Yeah, a little over 7 years. And then I worked, and I have a 7-year itch pattern. If you look at my resume, sort of every 7 years, I love it. Find something new to do. So for a couple of years, I stayed in the market center. I did some consulting work for some of our bigger teams, and got a little bored. Frankly, I was only working maybe 25, 30 hours a week, and an opportunity came along to move into the VP of sales role at Red Ledges, which is a 4-season lifestyle community. Used to be primarily focused on golf. Now we have access to the ski resorts, pickleball, mountain biking, all the amenities. And so that gave me an opportunity to bring KW to the listing of this community. Amazing. I was able to bring 9 cappers under the KW fold as a result of that. And it's been a wonderful partnership with our slogan is we're powered by KW. So all of the principles that are in the market center really are in my development community now. And we just have a great relationship with the market center, and their agents are very supportive and have helped sell our property and help get good word out with us amongst the other brokerages. So it's really been a win-win relationship all the way around.
So are you paying company dollar through that agreement with this? I mean, are you still associated with KW in that sense as a market center revenue source, or are you more an association that is a synergy between? I mean,
I am actually a salaried employee, so I don't earn 1099 income anymore. I still have my license at KW, of course. I would never change that. But my 9. It was 9 because we were in the height of COVID. Now we're down to 6, which is an ideal size for us. Are all part of KW, and we host the stakeholders meeting at our community 4 times a year. That's always a highlight for everybody to come and enjoy our gourmet food and all of that.
I love that.
So it's and I'm still an owner investor in the Market Center. So I have a mastermind group that I am leading with another owner for Aspiring Cappers. And
I love that. I love that.
We're now doing the meeting once a quarter. And that has turned out to be very good for our kind of middle tier agents who are just trying to break through. Because I love the coaching aspect of this, of being part of KW and the coaching that you get to do. And going back to what you were touching on earlier about not talking about profit share when we're not receiving much, when we're not profitable. Well, it's the same thing talking to an agent when you're coaching them about their own business. They're not profitable every month either.
Exactly.
Right. And so by working with them to show them how, look, if you implement these changes in your business and I implement similar changes in the Market Center, we're both going to get to profitability.
Exactly.
And then monitoring that and seeing it happen, seeing it become a reality is where you really get validity. And I was able
look, you have, and you understand, Nancy, as someone who is vested in profit share. A lot of that, I'm assuming, is stemming out of the Park City Market Center as an associate profit share, but you're also an investor, right? So understanding our model, and I love the fact that you're teaching an aspiring capper class, because if you're thinking like a stakeholder, right, you understand that if you can turn non-cappers into cappers, that's where company dollar comes from.
Exactly.
We all love our cappers, Nancy. We want them to live huge lives. We want them to close as many deals at 100% as they possibly can. But if you're thinking like a stakeholder, I hope you understand that they're not contributing to company dollar until their anniversary year starts over again and their cap resets. So when we talk about culture connected to profit share and what it means to be a stakeholder, you need to be thinking like, hey, if I can turn this new agent who just came into my office into a capper and a raving fan for this company that I'm a stakeholder in, what better win-win scenario is there? And that's what we, look, people don't buy what you do. They buy while you do it, blah, blah, blah. The problem is I'm more concerned about the people we're already in business with than I am about the ones that are not in business with us. I mean, I'm going to say 80% of our people don't fully understand why they should be thinking more like a stakeholder at KW. And I would tell you, I think the next wave of growth and profitability is going to come from within, raising our people to think like stakeholders versus just gross recruiting. If we do both, okay, if we can recruit at a high level, but raise our existing agents to think more like stakeholders, we'd be unstoppable, right? I mean, what would we look like from a cultural standpoint? I mean, right now, less than 30% of our people participate in profit share. If we could get that number up to 40%, God forbid 50%, and start having more of these conversations, I mean, think about what would happen next for our profit share checks for all of them, right? So
I agree with you.
We have to remember that, it's not just recruit. It's re-recruit. And Nancy, when you grow so big, so fast, right? And your story doesn't keep up with it, right? Sometimes it's hard for culture to keep up with it. And I love, I know it's been a tough couple of years for KW, for our industry, but I would tell you that all these new flashy objects, they're the best thing that ever happened to KW, because now we've had to look in the mirror and say, look, we're not just this unstoppable force with no competition. We actually have to look in the mirror and ask ourselves, how can we be better? And that's what I'm seeing now from KWRI that I hadn't seen prior to this moment, was that when you're a rocket ship of success and you're super profitable with no competition, sometimes you don't worry about all the little things that are kind of, being ignored. But now we're here, and I think we're ready. We're recalibrated. We found our true north again. And, I'm super excited about where this is going. I'm curious to know, Nancy, how taking over that Four Seasons became the catalyst for you attracting that big team. Talk about how that and how, by the way, you didn't have to say powered by KW, right? I mean, this is a position with the Four Seasons. It could have simply been Nancy went to.
Oh, sorry. It's not I said, I used the word Four Season. I don't mean the brand Four Season. We are, Red Ledges is a Four Season resort community.
Okay. Four Seasons of the Seasons. Gotcha. Okay.
Seasons.
Okay. So that, but you didn't have to go and promote that as a powered by Keller Williams, did you? I mean, that was, they hired you, right?
Well, first
they wanted a connection with, they wanted an association with KW, or was that something that you brought along with you?
Well, that was a little tricky because
I'm curious. Yeah.
They were listed with another brokerage when they hired me, and I had worked with that brokerage in the past, and they tried to recruit me, and I was not interested in working for them. So the owners of this community had to make a decision. I said, if you want to hire me, that brokerage cannot be affiliated with us. And I could also not bring up, would you like me to make an appointment for you to talk with the CEO of Keller Williams Park City?
Yeah.
Because they were in contract with this other brokerage.
Interesting.
So it wasn't until they asked me, well, should we talk to KW?
Yes.
And once they asked me that question, then I'm not, there's no ethical concern.
KW became a part of their branding as powered by KW as the broker. That was right. And then how did that lead to you attracting this mega team to KW?
Oh, well, I have to be perfectly honest. The sales team that was here, as soon as they hired me and everything flipped to KW, they all had to. So it wasn't as though I went out and recruited 9.
Well, that's even better.
Agents. The 9 agents that were there came with me.
I love it.
And so that worked out really well.
What an innovative way to build your downline too. Also, right? I mean, you just went and absorbed them. You merged with them, which is amazing. Now, did these people? They all, you said you're down to 6 of them, but so look, they're working for this. They're all working with you on this team, right?
Right. We only represent this one community. So, it's
been plugging into KW. Are they plugging into KW training at all? Or are they are they excited about profit share? Are you trying to communicate that value of KW to them?
Yes, I do. And a few of them have brought in recruits in other parts of the country.
That's
through
great.
their model. But they are only they're on-site sales agents. They can only sell this product.
Sure.
They don't leave the community much. So it's been a little more challenging to Kellerize them. Because we can't even bring them to our sales meeting because we have our sales meeting on the same day as the market center, and it's about a half-hour drive. So, but I've been able to get them plugged into some of the regional Keller Williams events, and they have seen how well the agents support us, and how whenever we have an event, they come out and they bring other agents with them, and they all say, what a culture this company has. It feels good to be part of something where, even though we don't see these agents as much because we don't leave the gates, they're always so welcoming, and they're always so kind, and they're always so willing to support us. So they feel that culture.
Yeah, and I get that. And look, and obviously this is your team, right? These are
my
your
team
members, right? You don't necessarily want to lose them or have to or retrain new talent. So I bet you one challenge you face is, you're probably not passing out MREA books for holidays for them, because if they start like a business owner, they might want to say, well, maybe I don't want to be in a dependent role, and I want to be my own business owner. And now Nancy has to go train a new member for her team. So I'm just curious about, obviously there's a limit to how much they're going to evangelize around KW and profit share, because they're in a more dependent role. They're not plugged into the KW community on a day-to-day basis, which by the way is a message for anybody listening today, right? Which is, if you're not, you can be an independent agent at KW and not be plugged into our culture and our models, and then wonder why you can't attract anybody to KW, is because you have profit share breath instead of being authentic with people, because you're taking advantage of all the things that you have to offer. So we have to offer. So I find that interesting how you were able to get into there, how you're able to absorb them into KW. But I would imagine the challenges for them to get really purposeful about profit share are probably greater, because they're not directly plugged in. They're kind of living. And by the way, Nancy, that goes into another conversation, which is we have lots of mega teams at KW that are not plugged into our models and our ecosystem, right? They like to operate independently. Sometimes I go to an office and I teach my class, and one of the biggest mega teams in all of KW is based out of that office, but none of their members come to the class, right? And then they wonder why that top agent is not making any profit share money, is because their agents are not plugged into our ecosystem and not inspired to attract people. So it's just an interesting way. We have a lot of interesting components at KW. We now don't just have mega teams. We've got expansion teams. We've got platforms like Place and Livian, and as a stakeholder at KW, look, I want to be in business with all these people. Okay. But I also want to make sure that we're not diluting the KW experience too much for some of our associates, because if they're not plugged into culture, if they're not plugged into our technology, our systems, our models, our story, then they're not having the same experience that a lot of us are having at KW, and probably are not going to be very purposeful about growing the company. So, so where does this leave you now? So you've made over 6 figures in profit share. You have over 100 people in your profit share tree. What's next for you? You've got a great position there in Park City, or what are you going to do moving forward? Yeah.
Well, this, I'm no spring chicken, so this will probably be the role that I'll retire from legitimately.
Yeah.
And I continue to grow my profit share tree. I continue to bring talent into the company. I don't have as much time as I used to, because running a development project is a 60, 70 hour a week job. But it's always in my mind that what talent can, and it's not because I need to make more money in my profit share. I've done very well. Right? I'm in that small percentage. It's that I love sharing the KW models and systems with people, especially if they're entrepreneurial.
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter what industry they're in. If they are entrepreneurial, they'll flourish in our system.
Well, and the great thing is you don't have to necessarily be super purposeful moving forward, because you have 100 people in your profit share tree that hopefully will help grow it for you, grow it for you deep. And that's kind of, I think, the great thing about profit share. First of all, it's something you can always plug into, plug out of. I mean, Nancy, you could be retired in 5 years, traveling around Europe. And if you were, crazy like me, you could be doing a couple of recruiting phone calls off of internet leads and referring them while you're, in the south of France. I think it doesn't ever have to stop. Or it could be, hey, I just reach out to the people in my profit share tree, check in on them, try to encourage them to do it, give them, point them in the right direction to join the mastermind group, right? Because that's I think the cool thing about profit share is that if you build it wide, time will take it deep. And the McKissicks, who've earned, $16 million in profit share lifetime, I mean, they make 80% of their profit share money off of their 5th, 6th, and 7th levels, right? They don't even know these people, right? And so I think that, so did you end up having kids or not? Are you?
No, I have twins, and my daughter is at KW. She's a top producer.
Tell me she put you down as their sponsor, Nancy, please, for the love of. Okay, God bless.
Of course.
Yes.
Yes. And so yes, the family is plugged in.
Yeah.
And I have some cousins back in Connecticut that have joined as well. So I will always continue to bring people to KW, because I'm a believer. I'm an investor. I'm an owner. I'm a believer. And
so
I think go ahead.
I'm teaching in Stamford, Connecticut in a couple of months. So you should send your cousins over there to come to my class.
All right.
Tellerize
I went to high school in Stamford. So I know it well.
Yes. Yeah. Actually, one of the most profitable offices in KW is there.
That's what I hear.
Yeah.
That's what I hear. So,
send them my way. I love nothing more than to galvanize people and help them build people like yours profit share. I didn't mean to cut you off there, by the way.
No, it's okay.
But go take this home. Talk about, this is we're the big roundup here at this call. We're at about an hour. Talk about what, you give us your final sort of summary, not around just your experience with profit share and what you're doing forward, but if you were talking to yourself, back when you joined KW, what kind of advice would you give yourself to kind of get more purposeful about this moving forward for other people?
Well, I think that the beautiful thing about being part of Keller Williams is you're really part of a family that supports you, and you can go in any direction. I happen to lean towards the development side of the business because that's the side I grew up in. But I've seen so many people in my time with Keller Williams create separate side businesses of, they're going to have a rental management company, or they're going to start a home services company on the side, and they apply the MRE
evangelist. All right, I mean, you never know.
Right. And they bring in, like the guy I know who started a home services company. He had a couple of people emerge there that not only were talented, handy people, but were entrepreneurial, had the right personality. He got them into sales.
Amazing.
So there's many ways that you can grow within this company, that it's not just one method, right? If we all support each other. Profit is there as a thank you for helping bring talent into the company. And it's just, to me, it's so rewarding to bring people in, see what the models and systems can do for them, and have profit share be the thank you that I receive for identifying that talent and bringing them into the market center. It's a perfect system, I think.
I love it. And look, it's not just about what you get at KW. Right. It's about who you become, right?
Right. And what you can give.
Well, that obviously, yeah. And, I always tell people I was a very mediocre agent at Coldwell Banker before I came to KW. Mm-hmm. And look at me now, right? I mean, the fact is, my sponsor has sponsored one person to KW. She never would have imagined who I would have become, how many people I would have attracted to KW. I mean, every recruit's a lottery ticket at KW, mm-hmm. right? I have people I brought to KW that I brought in brand new that run a community at KW. I mean, Liz Landry, KW Talent, sponsor her to KW off a brand new off a Craigslist ad, for free. We got people that are team leaders, PC coaches, right? And sometimes it takes persistent and consistent effort to find those that are going to stick, and they become attractors as well. I'm just also curious, Nancy, have you ever thought about taking what you've done with your background in becoming, taking over these developments, turning that into a business within KW? I mean, don't we have KW New Homes as a community? Have you ever thought about building a business about how to take over a community, or how to take over?
Of course, I've thought about it.
Have you thought about building a class around that, maybe? Yeah.
Of course, I've thought about it. I'm a little over 1 year into this.
Yeah.
So I feel like I've just finally caught my breath in the role.
Sure, I get it.
So that I can start to think about other things. And I am close with the woman who heads up the New Homes division for Utah. So we have talked loosely. Yeah. So this is the year it might happen. So thank you for the little nudge, because
I think you should.
It's been in the back of my mind is, how can I model this, right? How can I model this for other people such as myself who want to lead a team on a development community?
Well, and Nancy, this is a big moment for KW. And one of the things that I talk a lot about now is that we took over the industry being the preferred real estate company for business-minded agents, right? Like independent agents who valued interdependence, right? Mm-hmm. Right? And there's a great quote from Gary Keller that I used as a sort of a model for a lot of my conversations back in the day. He would say, look, interdependence, which is KW, is only a decision independent agents can make, right? You can't go from dependent to interdependent without going through independent first. So back in 05, 06, 07, when I was recruiting new agents, my first question was, are you really ready to be independent, right? Because if they weren't ready to be independent, Nancy, i.e. generate their own business, they were going to hate KW because we didn't generate business for them back then, right? So even though they might have said they wanted to be independent, when the rubber met the road and they weren't, they dropped out of the business, or they went to a dependent company. Now Gary Keller says, hey, if we're going to win the moment, okay, if we're going to be the company we need to be to protect you from these Wall Street backed tech disruptors, if we're going to protect your profit share legacy moving forward, we got to also be the preferred real estate company for dependent agents too.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we're talking about Team Ridge. That's, by the way, look at how many teams we have, expansion teams.
Right.
So we didn't have a lot of teams back in 05, 06 for
Right.
agents to go on to. So I'm going to tell you, the timing for you to get serious about this little side project of yours is pretty perfect, because now KW is really looking for these dependent opportunities
Mm-hmm.
to attract dependent agents to KW, because they can add to our profit share, our market share, their data to our tech, right? So I'm just telling you, the timing for you to be looking at this, I want to kind of nudge you a little bit harder. KW market centers are looking for more opportunities to create leads and business for agents that maybe are not ready to be independent, right? So I just think that if you built something and showed people how to take over a resort or something like what you're doing, think about how that could be a funnel for dependent agents who maybe someday at KW will grow into being business owners, and that could be a great funnel for that. And anyways, I'm just trying to push you. I think the time is for you.
Thank you.
So
Thank you. As always, for the great ideas,
Yeah.
Aaron. You're full of them.
I just want to cut, okay? When you go ahead and do it and blow it up. No, I just want to shout out from stage when you do it. So
you got it, Aaron.
Thank you so much for spending the morning with us.
Sure.
I'm sure whether it be live or on YouTube or in that group, we hopefully inspired one person today to do something different. And if that's all we did today, it's a total win.
Good enough for me.
Thank you so much. And can't wait.
Thanks, Aaron.
All right. Take care. All right.
Bye-bye.